and as you grow to know your church and your community, let's talk a little bit about how will you incorporate, and I assume you would in some way, your background in theater and music into your ministry in Endwell?
I've already found that there is a rich arts community around here for my congregation specifically, but my installation service was this past Sunday, and we had bagpiper come and
Oh, I'm
process
sorry.
us in.
That's too bad.
I know. And my husband played marimba, and one of the youth sang. She has beautiful soprano voice, and I'm finding that that's not atypical for this community. I love the arts, and I think there's ways to speak to people in a way that, not to make it a performance, but to see how God can speak in a new and exciting way through the ways that we are receptive to it. And the arts have a way of speaking to us through theater, through music, through art, that sometimes it's hard for us when we're doing written word, to say okay, what is this story saying to me, and how can I say this in a new way? So I'm already discovering that folks are excited about that. I'm excited because that's sort of where my background is. Yeah. But I don't see it as a performance. I see it as an extension of God speaking to us now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is, we live in an entertainment-oriented culture, or an entertainment-mediated culture. And I know that many churches, with the incorporation of video screens, with microphones to sing into now instead of choir lofts and that kind of thing, we are kind of blurring the line between our worship experience and entertainment. How do you distinguish between the two?
I think it's what are you trying to say?
Yeah.
What is the intention? I think that you always have to continue to ask that question. However you were worshiping, what is the intention of what I am doing? I don't think that there's anything wrong with trying to find new ways to do that and to express it. I think each church has a way of figuring that out, that if they're being honest to who they are in their community, they can do, but the thing is they need to do it well. Yeah. And they need to do it with the lens that it's not a performance and that I'm doing this because I'm worshiping God.
Yeah, we remember who's at the center of worship,
right.
And it's not the performer, it's not the pastor.
No.
And for us, it's word and sacrament, and they mediate to us the presence of God and the Spirit. When you are looking at your future at Northminster, I would think that your sermons might take on a bit of drama too. Do you incorporate a sense of drama in your preaching?
I do. I think that's just because of who I am, who God has made me to be. So
we all do.
Yeah,
whether we have drama background or not. Yeah.
Actually, a few weeks ago, I did a sermon as a first-person narrative, and I don't think folks were expecting it. I played the role of Peter.
Well, there you go, a gender reversal, right?
Right. It was interesting, though, just because Peter is the rock and the foundation of the church, and to get folks to think about, what was Peter actually thinking about instead of just talking about. I mean, I do that, too, in some of my sermons, but that particular sermon, I wanted to sort of dig a little bit deeper.
Peter was so conflicted in so many different ways.
Yep.
And when we get into Holy Week and start talking about his story, that's going to be fascinating too.
Yes, absolutely.
And that leads us into this Easter, from Lent into Easter and the drama of Easter. Many churches find the explosion of music, brass, bells, the whole thing is a big celebration. And these festivals are times for our worship to really come alive. I kind of wish that could find its way into the service at other times too.
Well, actually, Northminster's been talking about that. And next year we're hoping to invite some professional musicians to come and worship with us and play with us. We want to try to explore what that might look like at Northminster. So we're going to be inviting folks once a month to do that. We're doing that as a season to see how it goes. Partially because my own background came from that. I didn't say this, but I sang at Shadyside Presbyterian Church in Pittsburgh right after I graduated from college. It was the first church I joined that my dad wasn't the pastor.
And that's kind of, for those who don't know, Shadyside is kind of a cathedral Presbyterian church.
Right, yeah. And so I was one of the one of the paid soloists in the choir. But there was something that was happening because one of my friends, he was also paid soloist, another friend, and there are 3 pastors that came from that choir. 2 of us are Presbyterian pastors, one's in Pittsburgh, I'm here.
Yeah.
My other friend is an Orthodox priest. He sang with the Pittsburgh Opera, beautiful, beautiful tenor voice, Dean Kokanis. And so I think when we leave out music and we forget, like we think it has to be done one way or another way, we're not letting God speak in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
And music, like I said, can transcend some of those boundaries and let us see how God is speaking through that. So,
certainly one of the controversies in the worship area of the church, of course there's more of the church than worship, but is that we have all these different kinds of music that appeal to all these different kinds of people. And when a church identifies with one particular kind or genre of music, whether it's classical or country, you kind of limit then the congregation that's going to adopt to that musical style and worship. So I guess the term is blended worship. That's always a good thing to do, I guess.
Yep. Northminster's is trying to see where our voice is. It's been steeped in classical training, but there's also some like more blended praise type stuff that happens as well. So I would think they would probably say they're more traditional congregation overall, but what does that mean in this day and age? I think that just exploring things and seeing where God's speaking is more important than trying to nail down that this is what it is. And also to say, like, let's do this well. Not every community is going to be able to do classical music well. Not every congregation is going to do jazz well. Not every congregation is going to do praise well. But if you can figure out what your voice is and how God is speaking through that, I think that's more important than trying to get into these worship wars that happen.
Yes. As you get to know your church, you also have to get to know your community. What are the things you're looking for as you plant yourself in the Triple Cities area?
Relationships, trying to figure out what the needs are in the community, because each community has its own needs. And I learned that really, my previous pastorates learned that really quickly. You know, some things are universal needs, but some things are specific to the community that you're in. So I'm just going to, this first year especially, I'm going to keep my ear to the ground and see where are those needs, what's happening, and how are they being addressed? Are there ways that we can continue to do that, or are there new ways that we need to explore whatever those needs might be?
Sure.
So,
I remember many years ago the rule of thumb, the unspoken rule was that when you go into a new congregation, you don't make changes. When I went to my little church in Vermont, I was told I could do anything I wanted, but don't change the pageant. Don't change the pageant. And so I didn't. Are they still teaching that? Is that still an unspoken rule that you kind of go in a little bit carefully? And
they say you can tweak things, you know, and like there's some things right off the bat you're going to see that you can tweak, but they say try to listen to the community and listen to your congregation to find out maybe there's a pageant that's really important. Like don't mess with that. But the same breath, like for Ash Wednesday, we did a Taizé service, and the congregation had never done a Taizé service before, you know.
Taizé.
Yeah. But Taizé comes from a group in France, which is an ecumenical movement. It was started by a Catholic brother, but the folks who are part of this monastery group are not just Catholic. They are all Christian folks who come and they use music to sing.
And they especially attract young people too.
Yes, they have. And I think there's actually some folks from this area might be going to France to be doing for a Taizé pilgrimage. I know they've done a few in the United States. There was one in Dallas and one in St. Louis recently, and there was one in South Dakota. They came here to the United States. So.
And the music is like chant. It has a wonderful mystical sound as people, and very, very simple words that people can sing over and over.
Yes. So my congregation was sort of like, what is Taizé, just like you asked. And they asked, why are we doing this? And then we did it, and afterwards they were like, that was the most moving thing, just to be able to sing through a line and be able to pray through song and teze. So,
And if you do that 2 years in a row, it's a tradition.
right. So who knows? Maybe I'll come
Don't
back
change Taizé.
it was pretty great.
Yeah, yeah.
And we also tried, recently we did a Holden prayer service, which comes from the Lutheran tradition. So you can see we're trying some more ecumenical things.
Sure.
And I know that our neighboring sister church, Union Presbyterian Church, has built that up. So I was really appreciative to speak with one of my colleagues to be able to say, how have you done this well, and how are you? And your wife actually was the one that helped kind of clue me in that was happening.
My wife
so.
did that?
Yeah.
Yeah. My wife, a church musician, also a graduate of Westminster College, which has brought to us this program, kind of fooling around with that. Our guest today has been Rachel Helgeson, who is the new pastor at the Northminster Presbyterian Church in Endwell. You've had some work out in, when we talked about Mount Vernon earlier, it's not Mount Vernon, New York, but Mount Vernon, Illinois.
Correct.
And then some work in Kentucky and Dallas. And with all that experience that you've brought now to Endwell, this would be wonderful to watch you get your feet on the ground in the church, but also in the community. And we invite you, as well as our viewers and listeners, to become acquainted with the Broome County Council of Churches and its various ministries too, because I know the Endwell Church has been a part of the CHOW program,
Yes.
and I know that you'll be doing some additional work there too. Well, thank you for joining us for the Encounter program. I'm Jeff Kellam, hoping that in the coming week you'll be gentle with people and with yourself. And we offer thanks to WBNG TV for the production facilities, and to WNBF for airing the audio portion of our program. We'll see you again next week on Encounter.